Hey everybody, Ryan here. I know it's been a while since I've done a video. There's been a lot going on in my personal life, so I'm going to be doing previews for each team this month. Or not this month, but over next month and month and a half until the season starts, hopefully soon. We don't know when. Could be a couple months still. Could be mid-January, I think is what they're shooting for right now. So, alright, I'm going to start off. I'm just going to go alphabetically. I'll start with the Anaheim Ducks, which is my personal favorite team. So, a little bit biased here, not going to lie to you. But, alright. So, this year, they've added Kevin Shattenkirk was a big free agent signing. 3 years, $3.9 million per season. Not a bad contract. A lot cheaper than his last one with the Rangers. I'll say that. Well, not his last one. His last one was with Tampa Bay. 1 year deal. But the one before that with the Rangers, a lot bigger. But if he can keep playing like he did with Tampa last year, it could be a good addition. Especially because he'll probably be the first defender on the power play. So he'll probably get the point pretty easily and get some points that way, hopefully, because they were terrible that way in the power play last year. I'm not sure this year will be much better, although he might help a bit. And then they also added for the third straight offseason, Derek Grant. This year, a 3-year deal for him, $1.5 million per. Good deal for a good fourth line center. Adds some scoring punch. Honestly, I think he was probably like the fourth or fifth best goal scorer on the team, even though they traded him halfway through the year, or not halfway, but the trade deadline. They also signed from Sweden, or from the Swedish league, Cody Curran. We'll see if he plays or if he gets sent down, but he has a one-way contract, so that's telling me he's probably going to play. He's a defender, 2 years, $1 million per. So it's a kind of like, oh, well, if he works out, great. If he doesn't, it's $1 million a year. Just suck up a space and send him to minors next year, if we had to, or just send him and let someone else take him. They also added these two are minor league signings, but Vinny Lettieri, something like that. 1 year, $750,000, so minimum. And they re-added Andy Walensky for 1 year, $750,000. So no huge signings. I mean, Grant, Shattenkirk, and maybe Curran are going to play for the team. We'll see. Definitely Shattenkirk. I don't see Grant not playing. So those two for sure. Curran, we'll see. All right, now who they lost? Matt Irwin to Buffalo. Honestly, watching the games after they got him, he actually did not do bad for them at all. I watched him when he was with San Jose back in the day and played against him when he was with Nashville when the Ducks played them constantly. Honestly, I think he was playing his best hockey since his first or second year with San Jose. But he left. He went to Buffalo. That's fine. That's not a huge loss. I mean, oh well. They lost minor league goalie Kevin Boyle to Detroit. Minor league forward Chris Cuolo to Detroit. Kiefer Sherwood, that was probably the one I was saddest about, to Colorado. I mean, they have a logjam of forwards, and honestly, I think he could play a solid, probably at best third line forward. I think he was playing second line with the Ducks or first last year, so tells you how bad they are offensively. He's definitely an energy guy. He can go out there, scare around, hit people, do that sort of stuff. Add in some points here and there, but I think Colorado's going to enjoy having him on the fourth line. Then you have Eric Gudbranson, who they traded to Ottawa this offseason to get some cap space. $4 million to be exact. He actually played pretty good for the Ducks. I mean, he's not a good defender. I mean, he's slow. He doesn't do well with the fast guys, that's for sure. He could lay the body on, he could fight, but that's about all he could really bring. And honestly, I gotta be honest, he added points when he was with the Ducks. It was like his second best offensive year of his career before he got hurt. So he was on pace to be his best offensive year. So maybe it turns around for him in Ottawa. I wish him luck. He wouldn't have been bad for the sixth defender, but for $4 million, I'm not going to pay that for a fifth or sixth defender, and I don't blame him for trading him for that. And they didn't retain salary. They re-signed in the offseason Troy Terry. Good. That's a good re-signing. I hope it's going to be good. It's a cheap deal. Chase DeLeo, that's a minor league forward. Christian Djoos probably will be a fifth, sixth defender. And Yanni, that guy's got a fun name. Hakanapa, I think is how they said it. He played that at the end of the year for the Ducks, and he actually looked pretty good. I mean, he's an older guy who played in Finland for a long time. I think St. Louis drafted him, I want to say is who it was. But he looked pretty good. So the projected cap hit this year is $82.429 million. And they're going to lose some of that when Kessler goes on long-term injury reserve, about $6.875 million of that. So they'll have some cap space when the season begins, but that's where they are. And for forwards, this is where they sit in cap space, or not space, but like these are guys who are expected to be on the team. For me, you look at like Getzlaf, Backus, Rowney, and Agazino are going to be UFAs after this year. You have Heinen, Jones, and Steele who are RFAs. I believe Heinen, is a arbitration eligible player. By the way, all these that you'll see, I got these from catfriendly.com, so thank you to them. The very informative site. Go check it out. You'll learn everything. Well, not everything. There's a lot of minute details, I'm sure, but you'll learn the important things. So, I mean, for me, either this year for the Ducks, they're going to lose Getzlaf's $8.25 million. My guess is they'll probably sign him for another year. Hopefully, they sign him for like $4.5 million. That'd be better. He's still a solid player. Still can provide points in that, but he's 35, and he's had quite a few injuries over the last few years, and his point totals have been going down. So where he's at now, I'd say he's closer to what probably Silverberg or Backus is getting in that 5.25 to 4.5, somewhere in there. Probably not even the 5, honestly. So getting that 8.25 off the books will be helpful. And getting Backus is $4.5 million. Bye-bye. I mean, that guy 5-6 years ago would have been worth that money, but now, no. Heinen, we'll see how he does this year with a full season. Hopefully he stays healthy. But he looked pretty good when he came over from Boston in the Kasha trade. Rowney, I hope they re-sign him. Even though he's 31, that guy, he provided quite a bit for the fourth line last year. Him and Grant and Delorier were an amazingly good fourth line. I think one of the more productive fourth lines in the entire league. But considering the fourth line was one of your most productive lines, that doesn't bode well. And then you got Agazino, who I think he'll probably end up being the minors, is my guess. Or just an extra forward, throw in here and there if there's an injury, that type of thing. I think between Heinen, Jones, and Steele, they're going to be spending a bit of money depending how Steele and Jones do this year. If Jones doubles his point total, I think he'll make probably like 2.5 maybe. Because I think he only had like 6 points last year, so doubling it is about 12. So I don't think there's a huge ceiling on the guy, but he could be effective third, fourth line winger, that's for sure. And Steele, I think, has a lot more to show still. I think he can do a lot more if he gets more playing time. And that's the big thing. Because, I mean, your main centers for the Ducks are Getzlaf and Henrique. Getzlaf goes down with injury, which chances are pretty high that's going to happen at the rate he's been going lately. He may get more time. But there's also the added possibility that Trevor Zegras might take over that first line spot or second line, I guess Getzlaf's been playing lately. So, we don't know. I mean, they could hop around. I mean, there's a bunch of young guys that could play that some of these older guys are just taking up spots that, honestly, I think the Ducks are trying to retool, not rebuild, and they need to rebuild. I'm sorry. They're my team, but even I can admit the way they are now is not working at all. So, I mean, those are the only real free agents in the forward area. So you have now D-man, goalie, IR, and buyout. On the IR, you know you're going to have Kessler. $6.875 million coming off. Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't traded him to one of the bigger market teams because I guess they get more protections that way or something like that. I'd have to look at it again. I don't remember. Somehow they're not paying anything on the cap for Simone Dupre when they buy him out. After they signed him, he got a concussion after one game and never played again for him. Corey Perry, $6.625 million this year for his buyout, and then $2 million each in the next 2 years. So that one hurts a bit. I mean, really, if you look at it, that's almost a clean wash for the Kessler money right there. but he was already counted against it, so it wasn't too big a deal. What's happening? Hold on one second. Are you fucking kidding me? All right, everybody. So I lost my camera, so I'll take out my picture in the corner here. My phone died on me, so sorry about that. You'll still have audio, and you'll still be able to see what I'm talking about. So let's get back into it. I did not say curse word there, I promise you. I know it may sound like I was close to it, but I did not say it. All right, so for defensemen, they look solid. Right now, they have Jakob Larson as a loan over to Europe, but I think they can call him back anytime they want if they haven't already. I think they have. They have Christian Djoos, who will be RFA next year with arbitration rights. We'll have to see how he does. I think it'll be between him and Curran as to who gets that sixth spot. Goalie, you have Gibson, and they technically don't have a backup right now, but I'll get into that in a minute. So that's where they're sitting, who they have. Non-roster forwards, you can see all the guys who are signed here. A lot of them, like right now, Isaac Lundestrom is on loan. He'll be back if he isn't already. Next year, Trevor Zegras, that one will be interesting. See how he goes. Here's a non-roster defense and goalie. The big one here, because they need a backup goalie. A lot of people are saying Anthony Stolarz. For me, looking at the stats that Lucas Dostal has had over in Europe this year and last year, he might get a shot, I think. I mean, he's looking like a good steal in the late round for them a couple years ago. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, they brought over a couple of guys in the past, like Victor Fost. I mean, he did good that first year, then he just disappeared. Jonas Hiller did good for a few years for him and went over to Calgary, had another good couple of years, and then went back to Europe and never came back. So we'll have to see. I mean, you never know. Like Jonas Gustafsson, remember him back for Toronto and Detroit? Was not what they expected. So you never know what you're going to get with goalies. I mean, they could look good for a couple of years and then disappear. You don't know. All right, so their 2020 draft. This is still highly disappointing for me. I mean, they needed a defender, an offensive defender. I understand why they picked Jamie Drysdale, but when they had Cole Perfetti still there, I was absolutely ticked off that they did not pick Cole Perfetti. I think that guy is going to be an amazing player. I could be wrong. I mean, nobody's perfect with drafting. I mean, as we can tell. Neil Yakupov. Sorry to Edmonton fans. But that was an awful pick. Looked good for a year and then... Although, still not a... what's his name? Patrick Steff on that one. That was bad. Especially the way his career ended. That was really bad. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Patrick Stefan, Stefan, on YouTube. Look up Patrick Stefan empty net miss. You'll understand why his career ended. It's pretty bad. If you know what I'm talking about, you're laughing right now. You know. All right, next we had they picked Jamie Drysdale 6. Like I said, I'm disappointed one way, but it's not a horrible pick as long as he turns out the way they think he is. We'll see. Defenders, you never freaking know. You have then later on in the first round with the first round pick from Boston in the Kasha trade, they took Jakob Perreault, son of former NHLer Yannick Perreault. Always liked that Yannick when he played. He was a great player. He wasn't like a knock your pants off goal scorer or playmaker, but he was an amazingly good player. Like, he could do pretty much anything. But his son is supposed to be one of the best shots in the draft, so we'll see, because Ducks definitely need a goal scorer, so not a bad one. Second round, they got Sam Colangelo. I believe that's third round. They got Ian Moore. Then they got Timo Nickel, Artyom Galimov, Albin Sunsvik, I think is how you say it. Then Ethan Bowen. So we'll see what turns out from those later ones. Definitely those first two are looking good. San Colangelo, I've heard good things about. Ian Moore, I guess, has been showing pretty good so far. I think he's been playing the NCAA. I don't know. NCAA, you never know because some guys look amazing, Matt Gilroy, and then they turn out to be nothing. So we'll see. All right, so for next year's draft, they currently have their first round, their second, their third, their fourth, their fifth, and Edmonton's fifth, and their sixth. Their seventh round pick, they traded somewhere else. I can't remember where, but that's where they stand with next year's draft as of now. I mean, there still could be a lot of trades over the next few months. We'll see. I mean, trade deadline, they may get rid of quite a few guys, hopefully, if they're doing terrible. And then here's where we're going to get in the lineup. Their first line, I think, honestly, it's really probably truly Henrique, Silverberg, and Raquel. And Raquel just has not been the same last couple years, but he also, before, when he was scoring 30 goals, he had Getzlaff in his prime where he was still a playmaking machine and not hurt constantly. Perry was still there, but I think it was Perry that distracted everybody so Raquel could get more chances. And the guy could score goals from like every angle. I see him score all over the place. So, I don't know. Hopefully he can turn it around again. If not, he could be someone who's young enough and still has upside enough that they might be able to get something for him in the offseason or the trade deadline, whichever. Henrique and Silverberg, I think they're stuck with those guys through 2024, so those are staying steady, and I think they'll still provide about the same as what they did last year. The top two goal scorers, point getters, and I believe playmakers for last year. Second line, you have Getzlaff, Sonny Milano, and Dannon Heinen. Now, if Getzlaff can stay healthy and can start playmaking like he was before, then that could still be a solid line. And they could also throw around, like they could switch Heinen with like Jones or Heinen with Terry or Comtois or one of the other young guys. We'll see, but that's the second line. I mean, it's kind of lackluster, but never know. You might get lucky. Third line, they got Max Jones, Sam Steele, and Troy Terry. Troy Terry needs to prove that he's worth that $1.45 million that he signed for 2 years. He needs to prove something because, I mean, he's done okay, but he has not stood out like he did in college and the World Juniors. He needs to do more. Otherwise, he might get sent down to minors again. Sam Steele needs to do more. I mean, he has the potential. He could be at least a second-line center and still provide probably like 50 points a year maybe. Max Jones, I think he's about where his max ceiling, about third-line winger. Might be able to slip into like second or first with injuries just to provide a body to bump around. And he has some finish to him with goals, but he's not a playmaker from anything I've seen. And that fourth line, barring injury or trade, that ain't changing. Delorier, Grant, and Rowney, they were amazing fourth line last year together, so I don't see that changing without injury. Because Grant's had some injuries, Rowney's had some. Delorier just goes out there and hits everything. And he had an amazingly good offensive year for a fourth liner last year. I think his highest goal total ever, I think, in his career. Outside like minors and junior and that, of course, but in the NHL, I think it was his best year ever. And he's the youngest on the line at 29. I mean, Getzlaff's the oldest forward, 35. Then you got Rowney, 31. Grant, Silverberg, Henrique, all 30. Delorier, 29. Raquel, 27. Heinen, 25. Milano, 24. Terry, 23. And Jones and Steele, 22. So, it's kind of a mix of an older and younger team. We'll see how it goes this offseason. I don't see Grant being traded with a 3-year deal, but $1.5 million is not bad for a fourth line center. So we'll see how everything goes. So their lineup for the defense, you got Lindholm and Manson. They've been D partners for pretty much ever since they came into the league. Now Lindholm, he's still a solid defender. I mean, he's going to be out there. He's going to play a lot of minutes. He's going to play against the best players. He's had some downside last couple of years. But I think it's also because he's had injuries. He's playing against a lot more high-end talent. But I think he can still figure out. He's only 26, so he's got time to figure it out. Where Manson's 29, I think he may be trade bait this year for the Ducks if they do founder. I don't want to see him go. I like Manson. I really do. I wish he'd stay, but we'll see. Cam Fowler, he regressed heavily with a bigger contract last year. I don't think he was nearly as good as he needed to be for the $6.5 million he's getting now through 2026. Shattenkirk, I think he'll be a solid addition, that's for sure, and I think he'll play with Fowler or one of the younger guys. Then looks like they're expecting Djoos and Kieran to be the extra defenders. And the goalies, they're expecting Gibson and Stolarz. Like I said, this is all from Cap Friendly, so shout out to them. Thank you. Scratches, you got Bacchus, Comtois, and Mahura. Now, Comtois, I think, could be in the lab. He is only 21, so they might send him down to minors again. Same with Mahura. Although Mahura needs to prove that he belongs because he's an RFA, and if he wants something more than $750,000 next year, he needs to knock one of those other guys out of the spot and play his butt off this year. All right. Oh, did I miss one? No. All right. Top prospects. They got Trevor Zegras, who I think will push for a roster spot, which is going to be interesting because they are just over on centers, and nobody's going to want to take Henrique at the price, or even at, like, if the Ducks were to keep some salary, but he'd have to prove that he's a hell of a player, which I think he can be, but we'll see, because, like I said, NCAA, you never know, and prospects, you never know. They could look good and then just flounder, so we'll have to see where he goes, what happens in camp, injuries and all that, because if Getzlaf's hurt, like I said, he'll probably be the first one to be slotted in, knocking down Lundestrom. Then you got the recent draft pick, Jamie Drysdale. He will not be playing this year, I have a feeling. I mean, unless he just blows their socks off in camp, which there's no OHL this year, I don't think. There may not be an NHL, so we'll see. So we'll see what happens with them. Isaac Lundestrom, he is on loan over in Sweden, unless they called him back. I haven't seen that, but they could have. He probably will end up playing AHL, is my guess, or extra forward in case of injury. Y'all got Perot, their other first-round draft pick. I think he'll be next year, maybe. We'll see. Benoit Alvergrou, I think is how you say his name. He was drafted 2-3 years ago. I think he's no longer eligible for the minors, or for the juniors, because he came from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. So we'll see. He'll probably be AHL is my guess, unless he does amazing in camp. Then those were our top prospects I got off of NHL.com, and these are the ones that I've seen in other reports. Like Lucas Dostal, like I said, the guy's looked amazing all year so far in the Swedish League this year and last year. He may end up getting a call-up to be the backup this year. And who knows, if he ends up being really good, he could possibly push in and trade Gibson if he does well enough over the next couple of years. I don't think it's anytime soon, but you never know. Maxime Comtois is going to be pushing for a spot, I think, this year, hopefully. Josh Mahura, maybe. And then I was reading on this Henry Thrun. I think they drafted him last year, and he had an amazingly good college year, so he's turning some heads, so keep an eye on him. The season outlook, I don't think they're going to be a good team. I think they will be bottom of the league. I'm expecting like 28th, 29th, possibly even 30th. Possibly even last. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens. But I don't think they're going to make... If they do the same playoffs as they did this last year with play-in rounds, I don't think they're going to make a play-in round. I really don't. I mean, they could surprise. I mean, they got enough talent there to pull out a surprise season, but I don't think they go anywhere in the playoffs, even if they did. So, like I said, we'll see. We'll see if there's even a season. There may not be. I don't know. That's something for them to work out and figure out. So, that's the team for this year for the Ducks. And also they have those new reverse third jerseys I'm looking forward to seeing again. I know a lot of people didn't like that Wild Wing jumping through the ice jersey back in the 90s when they did it. But I think it's kind of fun to see it, just see some of the history of their jerseys that they've had, because they've had some interesting ones in the past. I mean, not the fish stick fisherman on the Islanders jersey, but still pretty interesting. Or that really ugly old Vancouver Canucks V jersey. I'm sorry, I know a lot of Canucks fans like it, and that's fine. You can like it. I take no offense if you do or don't, but it's just ugly, the color scheme and such. just like the old Kings yellow and purple back in the day. It looks awful. I'm sorry. It really does to me. That's me. If you like it, please do. Alright, so that's it for this video. I'm sorry my camera cut out there. And I will see you next time. Hope you all enjoy. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment. And I will see you next time. Bye.